So today we're going to deliver a briefing on insurgency trends in the Middle East. The formal briefing will last for approximately 20 minutes, at which point we'll move to a Q&A panel discussion. Today we've got two representatives of the MENA desk. We've got Firaz, our Senior Principal Analyst, and Jack, our Senior Analyst.
We're going to talk a little bit about US-Iran relations, the war risks associated and the impact on regional insurgencies. I'm going to talk a little bit about jihadist trends. Then I'm going to hand over to my colleague Jack, who's going to address Turkey and Egypt and the issues around those countries. And then I'll touch very briefly on the UAE and Saudi Arabia, because some of you have expressed interest in those countries, before wrapping up and moving to the Q&A. When it comes to the US policy in the Middle East and where it currently stands, if you look at the combined legacy of President George W. Bush and President Barack Obama, you end up seeing that the U.S. is in a bit of a strategic quagmire, and you end up seeing that the U.S. is suffering from what I would term strategic incoherence. In Iraq, the Iranian-backed militias are an indirect ally against the Islamic State. The Syrian president's army is a kind of indirect ally against the jihadists in Syria. The policies of Obama and of Bush, both administrations, were quite hostile to Assad. These policies failed to produce a viable alternative to the Syrian state under Assad. The U.S. is in an alliance with the Kurds in Syria and in Iraq, but the reality is that particularly the Kurds of Syria, these are deeply problematic for Turkey, a NATO member. Turkey itself, as we saw with the referendum, is going down the path of an Islamist police state. We heard criticism from the Trump administration for Saudi Arabia, but the reality is, from the Trump campaign for Saudi Arabia, but the reality is that Saudi's role in energy and in defense is too big for that relationship to be abandoned. The map in front of you shows the cities of Aleppo, Mosul, and Kirkuk. If you read Ahmed Davutoglu's book, Ahmed Davutoglu being the former Turkish Prime Minister, Foreign Minister, and National Security Advisor, who was the architect of a lot of the regional policies of the AK party, he states that all three cities should have been part of the Turkish Republic. And over the years, it's become clear that Turkey has had the aspiration of basically putting all three of these locations within its sphere of influence. However, the reality is that for Turkey, all three are in Iran's hands, and Turkey has not been able to do anything about it because the U.S. has blocked it from pursuing its strategy of attacking the Kurds alongside with Russia, and because Turkey was unwilling to send its troops into Syria if that didn't involve fighting against the Kurds first.
Turkey's policies towards regime change and support for proxy groups in Syria have facilitated a dual insurgency against the Turkish state. This is being waged between Kurdish separatist groups represented by the Kurdistan Workers' Party, or PKK, and its more radical affiliate, the Kurdistan Freedom Falcons, the TAK. Against this is matched the Islamic State and their affiliated Salafi jihadist cells throughout Turkey. The purges of the military and domestic security forces in Turkey following an attempted coup on the 15th of July 2016 will continue to limit the ability of Turkey's military to confront insurgency threats on two fronts. Terrorism has been driven primarily by Islamist political opposition to the military regime, focused on small cells likely composed of radicalized members of the Muslim Brotherhood and Islamic State operatives, including groups such as Liwa Fawra and the Hassan movement. There are indications that these groups will be increasingly cooperative on the mainland as their goals converge.
So with Saudi Arabia, we hear from sources that there are almost daily arrests of individuals associated somehow with terrorism and with specifically the Islamic State. But what we also see is that at a tribal level, there is no real acceptance of turning towards insurgency against the state. That said, there's hardly a single Islamic State video or message that comes out without some call for attacks in Saudi Arabia. And we will see two things happening. First, we will see some more people joining militancy within the country, but we will also see a lot more support for the Saudi state from its foreign allies and from a considerable portion of the population that wants exactly this kind of opening up.
Many thanks to Faraz and Jack, and for everyone who's dialed in today. We hope you can join us in the future for some more of our 2017 Country Risk Series webcasts. The next one is on the 8th of June.